always that habit.
You're going to have to come in every Wednesday and sign in. Is that the correct phone number where we can reach you?
Yes.
Mr. Harkat, can you go in the room right there? Just gonna take a picture.
Okay.
By yourself, please.
This one here? Okay, bye.
I thought maybe eventually I would ask him out on a date, and actually he ended up asking me out on a date, so it turned out well.
Me and her, our plan was going the way we got married for. We want a house, children, work, a nice job.
And we were at the point where we were actually talking about, moving to a bigger apartment and starting a family and, the normal things that couples do. And then all of a sudden, our lives turned upside down.
There is a new development to tell you about tonight about the suspected Al-Qaeda operative being held in Ottawa. Mohamed Harkat was arrested last week.
Another Canadian resident has been
A
arrested.
teacher in Toronto is under investigation and under arrest.
Authorities say he's actually a sleeper agent for Al-Qaeda.
Has strong links to terrorism.
Is a high-ranking member of an alleged terrorist organization.
Entraîné dans un camp terroriste en Afghanistan.
He allegedly engaged in terrorist activity and is a threat to national security.
Danger to Canada. Was actually a bin Laden devotee.
Led a secret
A
life.
high-ranking member of Al-Jihad.
Part of an Al-Qaeda sleeper cell.
A sleeper. That is someone waiting for word from bin Laden's network to carry out an attack, right under the noses of Canadians.
Uh, 2002, December 10.
December 10, 2002 was actually Human Rights Day. And I got a call in the middle of the afternoon to say Mo was arrested. And I remember I was like, what, did he speed or?
Took the garbage out and all of a sudden, see some officer running to me, one on my face and a couple coming a different direction.
An update now on the case of Mohamed Harkat. He's the Algerian national we told you about last night who was arrested this week in Ottawa. But exactly why is a mystery.
There is no idea what's going on. I was, wasn't speaking English good.
We thought there was a mistake. They arrested the wrong guy. We really thought they arrested the wrong guy and they would just resolve this and he would be out in the matter of a couple of days and the days turned into weeks.
How can a person react when their whole lives changes within 5 minutes?
And I remember I was sobbing the whole time. I was angry. We didn't know what was going on. I wanted answers. He didn't have any to give me. Then he mentioned the security certificate thing and I was like, what is that?
Mohamed Harkat was arrested last week under a rarely used provision called a security certificate.
The security certificate.
Controversial tool, the security certificate.
So a security certificate has been around in some form in Canada for about 30 years now.
It's a very exceptional measure.
When I went onto the internet to search out security certificates, there was nothing on there.
Certificates are an immigration legislation. I would consider them to be kind of a Cold War remnant.
It's a measure that only non-citizens are subject to, so that's a really key feature of it.
Security certificates have become, I would argue, and are used primarily as a means of doing national security law without using the criminal justice system. Initially, certificates are supposed to start with CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, which is engaged in all sorts of investigations around individuals that it thinks might jeopardize the security of Canada.
It may begin to develop a file on somebody and come to the conclusion that someone constitutes a threat.
And then they bring that material before two government ministers, the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration and the Minister of Public Safety.
So CSIS shares the information with the two ministers who then sign off if they decide it's warranted.
Then the matter would be referred to a federal court judge, and the judge would review the secret evidence.
And it's essentially up until you get to the federal court, the person concerned has no idea that this is going on. It takes place behind closed doors.
And the judge of the federal court evaluates the dossier of intelligence. On the basis of that evaluation, will deem the security certificate to be either reasonable or unreasonable.
Not whether or not not there were valid grounds for issuing it, not whether the decision of the two ministers was correct, but merely whether it was reasonable.
That's very different from beyond a reasonable doubt, which is used in a criminal proceeding.
The goal of the security certificate is to deport someone.
That would be subject to a few caveats, however. Canada is not supposed to be deporting people to face a substantial risk of torture in any event.
It's completely illegal under international and domestic law to carry out that process.
And secondly,
the fundamentals of the case, indeed the most central part of the case against the person, may be kept secret and not disclosed to the person concerned or their lawyer.
So it'd be a secret hearing before a judge, and the only other people in the room would be government lawyers, and a public hearing. But the problem with the public hearing, of course, is
neither he nor his counsel know precisely what he is alleged to have done.
In other words, you get locked up based on evidence that you never see, and that's very difficult to challenge. So that's, I mean, in a nutshell, that's what the procedure is.
imagine that you're charged with murder. And the only thing you know is that you're charged with murder. You don't know who you killed, where you killed them, and when you killed them. And you're asked to defend yourself.
I had never seen it in the news. I had never heard about it. I knew this was going to be big. I knew this was going to be huge.
Your mind controls it, you know, with the door, the way it's closed, the food, like they feed you, time you go to the bed, time the light, you know, turn off. Gel, it's gel, you know, it doesn't matter, it is just like, it's like destroy, it looks like, you know, cancer eating you every day, like day by day. You know, everybody in, on small cell alone, they have, you know, toilet, their bathroom, and they open the hatch and fed you from the hatch. There is no window, nothing going on. You know, it looks like it's, you know, it looks like the end of the war.
And I remember my first visit. You're treated like in the most inhumane way possible, especially if you're, you know, the wife of the guy in segregation that everybody knows about, but nobody has seen because he's totally locked down.
Sometimes I wish I didn't have to come to this place. You know, it's not a pleasant place to come.
I would wait hours to see him, hours. I would be the first one to arrive. I remember there was a girl who, you know, we used to fight because you only get a 20-minute visit. And the first one there is the first one to sign in, then you get the box the first. And this girl used to visit at the same time and the same days as me, and we would come out of the bus running to see who's going to sign up first. And the advantage is that she had high-heel shoes and I never had high-heel shoes. It's destroying my, you know, my relationship. It's like, you know, I feel like, you know, it's far away, you know what I mean? Just seeing each other just from behind glass. Shackled to the wrist, from the wrist to the waist, to the waist to the ankles. And he's in a box and there's 2 guards watching him and there's 1 watching him on the side. And that, you know, we get a 20-minute visit and the phones don't work and everybody's looking at you and everybody's judging you, and very, very difficult at first. This was a very difficult moment in my life.
You have in the security certificate cases people who are arrested, let's say in 2002 with Mohamed Harkat. He thought he could have been deported tomorrow, next week, next month. That's indefinite detention. You don't know when you're getting out. You don't know what your future is. You don't know, you know, what's going to happen next.
She probably needs no introduction. Please welcome Sophie Harkat.
Hi, everyone. I'm here today in solidarity with all of my sisters and hoping today we can get some answers. Nobody seems to be listening, and they better watch out because they haven't finished hearing from me. Until this security certificate is abolished, I'm going to continue fighting.
I had to fight for every single thing for him in jail. He was 1 year in segregation until I said, listen, my husband will no longer stay in segregation. If you don't move him, I'll have a protest right outside your door.
Sophie has been very, very active in fighting for you. Did this surprise you?
Absolutely, yes. You know, like the way she's, like what she's doing is more, you know, more somebody like
practiced a lot doing something like that, doing everything possible, you know, to get me out from this place.
Through the years, I've learned to manage, to learn tricks, you know, and learn to survive.
See our banner that said "Stop Secret Trials in Canada," they would ask, what are you talking about? And when we would explain it to them, the response was almost universally that this was wrong. Of all the issues I've ever worked on, this is the one that I've gotten the least hate mail about. Lots of demonstrations, lots of vigils, lots of jail visits, lots of letters. It just continued to build from there. Mr. Sharkawi, from the moment he was arrested under security certificate, was challenging the constitutionality, and the case was joined by Mr. Harkat and Mr. Almright.
Free the secret trial 5!
Watching people outside putting banners and huge demonstrations outside the Supreme Court.
They had to open up 2 separate courtrooms on video screens. It was absolutely packed.
Breaking news from Ottawa as the Supreme Court decides to strike down the so-called security certificate.
The highest court in the country has said no to secret trials. Mr. Harkat, Mr. Almrai, and Mr. Charkoui have won.
The Supreme Court unanimously found in February of 2007 that security certificates were unconstitutional.
The Supreme Court was absolutely clear. Canada's use of security certificates is unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional. Unconstitutional.
So,
you know, the tears start coming down. The most happiness day in my life. We want just fair trial. Show me what the rest before.
During this process, more and more the men were coming out of prison and going under house arrest. There was this great sense of, this is a step forward. Let's get them out of prison. Let's get them back into the community. The Supreme Court found that security certificates were unconstitutional, but they sent the issue back to Parliament, giving them 1 year to come up with something new.
So what exactly did Bill C-3 do?
A new a so-called improvement was introduced.
We have a special advocate provided for within the legislation.
A special advocate, something called special advocate.
There needed to be some kind of a mechanism that the government introduced to actually allow them to continue to use security certificates, and special advocates were that mechanism. The only reason the government is able to continue to use security certificates is because of the special advocates.
When the judge appoints a special advocate, basically it means that a person from a fairly small list of security-cleared lawyers gets appointed to the case.
When they sign on to be special advocates, they have to get top secret security clearance.
And that person is allowed to, at least initially, speak to the person who's subject to a security certificate.
After that, the special advocate is authorized to examine the secret evidence. The problem is,
once they have access to all that secret evidence, they can't go back to the person concerned and talk to them about it.
If you are a special advocate and you need to ask a question of the individual that you're representing, you're not allowed to do that. Ultimately, we don't know what the role of the special advocate is because their work is done in secret.
The initial release of the individuals was seen to be a success. They were out of jail. That was a goal. I mean, these are, in the case of like Sophie and Mohamed Harkat, for example, they really hadn't had contact for years.
And he's a brand new husband. He's new and improved.
When he got bail in May of 2006, it was so wonderful, you know. It all seemed like, wow.
Like somebody like come over to visit, make barbecue for him. And we sit down eat chilling. This barbecue, since I moved here, I took over.
I don't think anyone really appreciated at the time what the long-term effects of those harsh conditions would be. It's kind of like the day after a big party, there's that almost sense of letdown, because then you look around and you go, this is great, but you had to have these guys come in and wire your house. You had to set up cameras. You had to get approvals for people to visit the house.
The combination of constant monitoring, having a car parked out in front of the house, for example, people following you around, curfews, GPS locators.
Have the government tap your phone, have the government open your mail, have your wife's cell phone monitored, having agents of the government come in at any time of their choosing if they want to check on what's going on.
Movement bans, restrictions to a geographical area.
I can't take my kids to the park unless I get approval. I can't go to the doctor without the permission of the government. If I go to the grocery store, I have to give a map, and they have to approve it 3 to 6 days in advance. We run out of milk, we run out of milk. Your kids have to go behind a locked door to do their homework. You had to wear a GPS tracking system that had to be plugged into the wall for 2 hours a day.
So there's this kind of a total blanket of surveillance.
Literally every step you take is monitored and controlled by the government.
Yeah, that's one of GPS I wearing all the time. See how big it is? And now it's almost a time to start charging it for 2 hours. So I'm gonna stay beside the electricity for 2 hours straight and, you know, stay until it charged. This one is 24 hours, 7 days. It never got out from my legs. And
how long have you had that on now?
This one since they released me from jail, 3.5 years.
And you know, it's just like so unreal because you don't have any human contact whatsoever for 3.5 years. All of a sudden, you're always together. And you have this huge responsibility because you have to be like, you have to watch him like a hawk. There's no other way to describe it. I was a full-time jailer for 3.5 years.
I can't even stay in the house. She must be in the house with me. I can't even use a bathroom, a regular bathroom. We have to use a family bathroom. We have to go to the same bathroom together.
I had to sneak in into a woman's washroom, or I had to sneak into a men's washroom, and we would lock the door. We had this like technique, hurry up, you know. Once I go for a doctor's appointment, and my husband sits in the corner because I couldn't leave him home alone, and I didn't have anybody else to cover. There was only 3 of us that could do this job, and they were all working except for me. So any medical appointment I had to take him with him. So my poor husband is like going through a medical magazine in the corner while I'm having my annual pap test.
I've been in the bail business for a long time as a criminal lawyer, and I've had numerous clients released on bails on murder charges, and I have never had a client released on a bail that anywhere resembled, you know, the onerous nature of the initial bail that Mr. Harkat was released on.
This is an extremely serious type of condition. We don't usually use these kind of conditions. These are punitive conditions. We don't use these conditions normally. We use parts of them in other bail cases, but never altogether.
Well, on May the 12th, we had a little surprise visit. I was actually in the shower. It was about 5 to 9, and there's a knock at the door, and Mo yells at me, CBSA is coming in for a search. And I was yelling from the shower, search for what? There was 13 CBSA officers, 2 Ottawa police, and 3 RCMP with sniffing dogs. And they said, Mrs. Harkat, just take it easy. And I'm freaking out here because I don't know what the hell's going on. I had to get permission to get dressed. So they let me get dressed. And one, I had to sit in the living room in the middle here. I had to get permission to eat because I'm diabetic. I had to get permission to go to the washroom, and lasted 6 hours. They went through every single corner of this house. They lifted picture frames. They had mirrors. They looked under the kitchen cabinets. They went under all the pieces. They moved everything. They lifted the mattress. Everything was like total disorder everywhere. And they left, and that's no explanation, no nothing. We can't tell you anything. We can't tell you why. Just stay calm. Stay calm. You know, you have 13 CBSA in my house searching for what? They see everything we buy, and they monitor everything. It's worse than being in jail. It was easier to visit him when he was in jail.
You know what? It was a nightmare. And there were, although I'm sure Sophie would never have allowed it, There was times that it went through everybody's head whether it'd be better to be in jail.
Compared to the voting rights?
You will win. You will win.
Oh,
This judgment here is very disturbing. The big majority of the case continues to rely on secret evidence and secret human sources.
At the back.
A question to Mr. Harkat, and maybe his wife could respond as well. The judge says that not only are you a liar, but he says that your marriage is a marriage of convenience. I'd just like to get your view on that.
I know you very well, actually. I remember you from the beginning. My answer to you is, I don't care what the court document says. I don't care what you think. I really don't. When my husband asked me to marry him, he said to me, I don't have a citizenship. Maybe we should wait. And I said, why? It won't change anything between you and I. Just put it on the record as well, I love my husband more today than I ever did. And you can tell that to the Canadian population. We married for the right reason, and I'm going to stick by his side until we see victory.
Given what we had to work with, we thought the hearing went very well. We thought, on the public record, we won. Based on what we'd seen, what was aired, the case wasn't there.
Was I surprised that the security certificate was upheld? No, and that has nothing to do with whether I think the case is strong or weak. I mean, my expectation is that most security certificates will be upheld because the difficulty of challenging the secret evidence is huge.
Sister-in-law of Mohamed Harkat, and I would like to say that I am outraged. The validity of Sophie and Mo's marriage is still being questioned, asking whether it had been a marriage of convenience. So I would like to ask, where is the convenience in this marriage? So I took a few guesses. I came up with a list. Is it perhaps a marriage where you have to give up your independence, move back in with your mother, and visit your husband in jail? Is it a marriage where you are not allowed to be intimate with your husband for several years? Is it a marriage where you have to become an activist overnight and fight every day? Or perhaps is it a marriage where there is no privacy, where you have to live under constant scrutiny and surveillance, and even have to share a public washroom with your husband? Is it a marriage where you have to postpone all your plans for the future, including having children? So basically, it's a marriage where you have to live in pure hell for 8 of those 10 years. How convenient. So we would like to say to Sophie and Mel, stay strong. No matter what the outcome is, you are heroes and a symbol of what true marriage is. True devotion, trust, commitment, togetherness, and love. Mathieu, Gabriel, Bastien, and I will continue to support your fight and your marriage of convenience. By the way, my sister just got married in a marriage of non-convenience about 3 weeks ago, and we took care of the kids. I hope for your continued support, as this will be a much longer battle. Justice has not been denied, it's just been delayed. We love you all. Thank you.
I would like to thank my wife. She's the one give me all the energy to keep going. I'll fight for justice, and I'll fight to clear my name.
When I think back to the decision that upheld the security certificate against Mohamed Harkat, the problem is we still don't have access to the secret evidence. You know, he still doesn't have an effective means to challenge the government's case against him.
So you're going to go to the Supreme Court eventually with this?
I think it needs to be reviewed by a higher court.
Can you give us any sense of time frame here?
Sadly, this has been going on for this man for 8 years, and it could be years more.
There's no evidence that the security certificate has succeeded. It hasn't succeeded in providing a process by which we can have confidence in outcomes. It hasn't succeeded in being speedy.
There's many persons close to the system that predict there won't be another one. And so if there isn't going to be another one, we shouldn't have our values distorted on the backs of Mr. Harkat and the other remaining 2 cases in Toronto. It's time to put a stop to them. They're not necessary.
Let's not try and tinker with this system. Let's just get rid of it altogether.